Welcome back to What Arty Noobs with General Disturbance. This is the 105 leFH18B2, the French Tier 5 Premium SPG that most people know as a leFH or a leaf blower, but we know as Phoebe La Pew Pew. And this one is located on the eastbourne of Sand River under the command of Andromeda of No Retreat, No Surrender. Game on. Well, this is a tier 6 game with tier 4 tanks in it, so he's middle tier. And of course, it's the famous VP, which a lot of people, well, they fear because it's actually got a wicked fire rate. Standard reload 8.92 seconds, but Andromeda's got it down to 7.85. And that can be very, very nasty for the enemy, mainly because these shells, they just keep coming at you and pecking you to death. 410 alpha, 53 millimeters of pen, and his first shell lands on target at the other end of the map on the lookout area overlooking the cap area. Well, he aimed for just at the back of the cap area there, didn't get it, but he's only got 50 rounds of ammunition, so he needs to be careful that he doesn't blow too much of it before the enemy's spotted. Now, he's aiming at the southwest corner of the map at the moment. Enemies normally turn up there and confront our guys, and that's where he'll get a chance to actually shoot them. But you've got to remember, these enemy tanks, they're some distance away. They're actually about, 4 seconds time. Was it 3 seconds time? About 4 seconds from here. Unfortunately, I haven't got the timer, which shows exactly how much the flight time is. But you can see the first enemy's turned up, and it's an Su-85. Rounds out. I think that might have been a bit premature, but it did land right next door to the Su-85, did 75 hit points. Ideally, you want to let this thing dial in fully before you fire, because otherwise you might miss the target. Just takes a few seconds to wait. Just have to let it dial in and settle. That's better. That was much closer on the Panda 3 Aslains J. Going to try again. And yes, a direct hit this time for 163. And that guy's almost out of hit points. Ramps out. Just over the top of him. But we know he's somewhere on that slope. And then it's Celsius turned up as well. So he's going to probably milk that thing for all the hit points it's got. Yeah, you can certainly harvest a lot of hit points. Direct hit for 170 this time. Good shot. We can just about make out the Panda 3 Aslains J behind him. And he's just spotted that, so he thought, yeah, I'll have that one before I finish going with the Excelsior. Rounds out, this looks good. Ooh, not fully dialed in, but it looked good. It looked as if it was going to take the guy out. Is he guessing? No, he's going to go back to the Excelsior because he knows the Excelsior's there. That one landed slightly short. Needs to let it dial in before he fires. That's better. And gets a hit this time. Now, normally it will dial in almost as quickly as it reloads. But of course, you just need to have the patience to dial in. And sometimes people can fire prematurely and obviously they'll miss the target. That Excelsior's hiding in that corner because he knows that he's Arty safe there. Meanwhile, we've got a couple of enemies up here, including a Stud by Aslains B, who gets a massive hit on the side for 195, but that was a non-penetration. Now he's going to try for it again. He does, but the Stud goes for cover this time, and he misses that shot. But the VK is stationary, and he fires one in at him, and we just saw the taster from the enemy Arty, and he gets the engine bay. So he's picked up another 144. He tries another shot. And that one's a kill shot. I think that one did actually pen the VK3001P. Now, we did see the tracer from the enemy Arty, actually. I don't know if you saw it, but he's actually located in grid square E1 or D1. The tracer was coming from that direction. Trying to get a shot on the Excelsior. It's difficult because that rock face there is blocking the shots, but he fires another one in. He hits the rock face. He's trying to get it lined up and let it dial in. Gives it another go. And this time round he does get a hit. 86. The Excelsier's a one-shot. He can get the kill if he can get this one on target. Oh, so close. And the Excelsior goes down to the Churchill 3. There's that Panther guy again. Still sticking around, but he's using the rocks for cover at the moment, but it doesn't protect him from Andromeda, and Andromeda takes him out. Now we're going to the M10 RBFM, who's behind the cap area. Rounds out. Oh, missed. Just zipped past his rear. He's going to give it another go. He might get it this time. Yes, he does. Okay, we now know that the enemy Arty was actually an E1, not D1, but that was close. He's trying to give it another shot. I'm pretty sure the enemy Fifi has moved. And in fact, he has moved because he just got killed by the T-3485, and now we've got an M8A1. With 4 up on the enemy. There's only 4 of them left. Trying to hit that M8A1 blind at the moment. He was last seen in that bush. Unfortunately, his shells aren't hitting the target. I think it's because he's firing a little too prematurely. That's better. He got it right that time. Unfortunately, it hit the rock face. So things aren't going too well. We've lost another 2 tanks, and the M8A1 is not there, so probably does need to think about some of the other enemies. He fired that one blind, and no joy off that either. He's down to 16 rounds of ammo. He fires snap at the chappie, and that doesn't work. He loses that shell. You have to be very careful when you're firing at snap, because you're probably just going to waste the ammo. Okay, the M8A1 has been spotted, but he fires snap again, and yeah, unfortunately misses. Need to let it settle. Almost ready. Rounds out. No, it hits the other side of the rock face. And he's now down to 11 rounds. He's too short on ammo now to blow blind shots. And thankfully, that chappie did go down to our Su-76 GFT. That's the Chinese tank destroyer. I think he needs to be careful about using any more ammo on blind shots. He needs to actually see the target before he shoots. Fires another one in, and just makes a hole in the ground. And in fact, now an enemy tank has turned up near our cap area, and it's a Cromwell, and he's just to the north of us. Oh, and that was fired a bit snap as well, and that missed the target. It just doesn't work when you fire snap. 1 in every dozen shots you fire snap actually does hit the target, and that's only pure luck most of the time. He fires snap again at the Cromwell, misses. The guy's getting up to the ridgeline there to the north of the cap area. He might actually spot us very soon. Luckily, the enemy doesn't have any other tank other than the Cromwell who can actually hit us at that range. Thankfully, the rock face here around this little area is, well, he can't see what's behind the rock, but if he gets a bit closer to the cap, he might see him. He's firing up over the rocks at the moment to hit the Cromwell. We can't see where he is, but you have to guess that he has moved, and he's now on that pass just a short distance away. The T-67 has moved up to that position to try and spot him. Hasn't found him, so he must have moved away from that position. He wasn't proximity spotted in the village, so I wonder actually if he's turned around and gone a completely different route. T-67 is getting close to the rock face. He might get a proximity spot if he's still there. Yes, he does. Okay, so we can work this one out. It's very difficult to get the spot. There it is. No, hits the rock face. Try to be careful with the shells though, because you haven't got many left. Only 5 rounds left. He fires another one, and it's... oh, he's only got 4 rounds left. He's going to run out of ammo. And there's still 3 enemies out there. He can see the Cromwell, but he just can't get a solution on him. Oh, he tries again and again, hits the rock face. All those blind shots are coming back to haunt him now because he's going to run out of ammo. Well, the T67 gets the Cromwell, and that just leaves the Basotto and the M8A1. He's only got 3 rounds left. We don't know if there's anybody to the south, but what I can tell you is that this little Arty does have a very good view range, 390 meters. It's also fairly slow, only 28 kilometers now, but remember that's because it's actually built from a Char B1, a heavy tank, so it's fairly slow, well armored, except for the gun shield, because the gun shield is, well, negligible armor, but the actual armor on the hull is 60 millimeters, so it's quite strong. And up against, it can stand up against the tier 4 tanks. It does see tier 3 if you get a top tier game. Won't happen that often. But he has got 390 meters view range, and now I've always supposed that one of the reasons why this Arty has such a long view range is because that gun is mounted very, very high up on top of a heavy tank. And that means that the gun crew have actually got a very, very long way that they can see to spot the enemy from. Of course, 390 meters is the sort of view range you might actually expect from a light tank in some games. Another thing about this tank as well is because it's based on a heavy tank, if light tanks try to ram it, they normally come off worse because it's 34 tons in weight. It's very heavy. A light tank might be only, what, 20 tons or 15 tons in weight? Some light tanks are only 13 tons in weight, as of course the AMX-13 is a 13-ton tank, or supposed to be. So if you ram into one of these, which is weighing twice as much as your weight, you're likely to come a cropper. You're likely to die as a bug on a windshield. You won't survive. There are a few spots you can aim for, though. You can aim for the gun shield. It is thin. That's the preferred place to hit the shell. But a lot of people just auto-aim onto this thing, and then they hit hard armor, and they wonder why they don't survive. Well, there's only 2 enemies left. Got 2 3/4 minutes left. I do applaud what he's doing, actually, because he's actually notified his team that he has only got 3 shells left, so he can only be a little bit of help. But the good thing, the thing he's really helping his team on, is by actually taking this route and preventing the enemy from making any move through the dunes to get to our cap area. We've got all the bases covered. We've gone through the middle of the map, the north of the map, and now we're coming up on the heights, and if he gets spotted, then you can be sure that one of the enemy is up on those heights. Well, there's the 2-minute warning. The T67's made it to the north of the cap, and he still hasn't found anyone. But there's the Basotto, and the M8A1 is up on the heights, so he's going to have a go at the Basotto first. And the T67 kills the M8A1. Only 3 shells left. He's used 1. Go for it. Rounds out. Yes, he gets a hit. Oh, that might be a high caliber. Now, the Basotto just killed our SU-76, but we fire another round in, and we're out of ammo now, so he's just driving in. And we're just trying to get close now, because all he can do is ram the enemy now. He's run out of shells. And that's it. It's all over. They've done it. Here's the end of battle stats, and that was the second-class tanker to Andromeda in the 105 leFH18B2, the French Tier 5 Premium SPG. Only one of 2 Premium SPGs in the game, and we keep wondering when Wargaming is going to take our suggestions and put some more in. I know the ordinary tank drivers just can't compete with Arty. They can't play with Arty because they don't know how to. And yes, they're quite handicapped. We understand that ordinary players are very, very much handicapped. They don't know how to play with Arty in the game because they keep getting hit by Arty, which proves that they're incapable of playing the game when there's Arty in the game. Anyway, he managed to get a second-class tanker in that game, Andromeda. He also picked up a Bruiser medal for getting at least 5 critical hits. In fact, he ended up with 15 in that one, as well as a Confederate medal as well for hitting more of the enemy than anyone else on his team. His win rate was quite high, 5,089, which is Super Unicum standard, but he didn't get the high caliber, but he did get 20% of the enemy hit pool out of that one. So we'll just have a quick look at the team score and see who actually did get the high caliber in this one. Well, it turned out to be the Basotto on the enemy team. Yep, he got 2,719 hit points out of it. So yes, he definitely beat Andromeda, unfortunately. He's the one who ends up with the high caliber. But Andromeda did get a medal, so at least that's something. He got the Confederate for hitting more of the enemy, and he got 1,903. And the third highest on damage was the T-3485 with 1,589. When it came to kills, though, it was the T-67 who did the best. He got 5 kills out of that game. 3 kills went to Andromeda and also to the T-3485, and only one member of the enemy team managed to get more than, 3 kills, and that was their M10 RBFM. When it came to base XP, it was the T-3485 who did the best with 1,009. Churchill 3 got 950, and then we got Andromeda with 860 in that game. He fired all 50 rounds of ammunition, got 10 direct hits on the enemy and 1 penetration. Now, I was pretty certain at the time that that one that actually penned was the one up on the heights, and it appeared to be a good pen because it actually went through the armor. I think it was the VK, was it? Just have a quick look. Yes, it was the VK. It hit the engine deck, I think, that one, and it rolled for the rest of the damage he actually had on the vehicle. So I was pretty certain at the time that that was a penetrating shot. He also got 19 splashes on the enemy, 1,903 hit points of damage, all of it at more than 300 meters. So he didn't get any damage whatsoever on that Cromwell. And it was a really difficult shot to get that shell to land on him, mainly because that ridgeline is so high. It might have actually helped him if he'd actually gone a bit further back, bit further to the south, because that might have increased the range and therefore allowed him to get the shot up and down over the ridgeline and into the enemy. He also got 9 hits on or 9 enemy vehicles damaged, 3 killed, and 74 hit points of damage assistance. He earned 28,862 credits for the game, 55,000 for completing a mission, 83,862 altogether, and after ammunition respawn, he only used HE in that game. He actually ended up with 77,462 credits profit. That's a decent profit, actually, albeit, though, that he did have a lot of shells that missed the target. So I think, it's one of those things where you need to practice, and practice a lot with the VP to get those sort of exact shots that hit the target and get absolutely, wipe out the enemy with just one round. 25 bonds for completing an achievement, 860 base XP, times 2 for the first victory, and 229 for this being a premium vehicle. Took away 1,949 experience points altogether. He says, out of ammo, it does happen with this tank. Yeah, it's so easy to blast those rounds away. So you do need to be kind of careful. I do look at my ammo count on this one, and towards the end of the game, when I'm down to less than half my ammo left, I try to be as conservative as possible and only shoot when I've got something clean to hit at. Never try to guess or a blind shot somebody unless I know for certain that they're there, such as a tank that might be hiding up on the heights in a well-known tank destroyer position, and you see your shell disappear, and so you follow it up with more shells to see if you can get him and kill him whilst he's unspotted. Other than that, the other obvious places are to aim at bushes where you know the enemy light tanks tend to hide, such as the bushes on Malinovka. They're usually good places to hit blind, but try and be careful with the ammunition because it is so easy to run out, just as Andromeda did in this game. And he did do well because he almost got the high caliber. He did get 20%, just didn't catch up with that Basotto towards the end of the game. Anyway, we've got the armor profile for this vehicle, so let's have a quick look at that. Okay, you can see the armor is very heavy down below because, of course, that's heavy tank. And it's the light armor up here that's where you should penetrate if you're aiming at this with a lever light tank or aiming it with a light tank. It's only 20 millimeters, you see, so or 25 there at the sides. So it's easy to pen, but the armor on the hull, never auto-aim onto one of these if you're in a light tank because you more than likely won't penetrate it. It's just so heavy that the shells just won't get through, so no point even bothering. And if we look at the live model, again, it's heavy armor on the hull, light armor on the gun shield, so always aim for the gun shield if you can. We have a quick look at the modules. We've seen this one before, but you can see that the gunner is on the right-hand side, commander's on the left-hand side, and the gunner, the loader rather, is sitting behind the breech. The ammo racks are down below the crews, and of course the tank driver is actually in a separate part of the vehicle from the others. I know it doesn't look like that if you look at this diagram, but in actual fact he's in a separate little compartment down below, and in order for him, he could actually get out of his little spot and go a little corridor along here and into where the engine is to service the engine. It's a little sort of like path that runs along there, but he's down below in the hull of the Char B1, whereas they're basically sitting on top of it, so to speak. The engine is a very, very long engine. It's only got a fuel tank one side, but you can see there's a radiator on one side. There's supposed to be a weak spot there, but it doesn't appear in the game at all. And the transmission is right at the back of the vehicle. So if you want to set off the fuel tank, you have to aim at the left-hand side of the vehicle. If you want to get the ammo rack, you have to aim directly underneath the rear of the gun emplacement, or where the gun shield is, and that should hit the ammo rack. The crew, well, the best way to actually take them out is just to aim an artillery shell directly into this little place here, and usually you will get a kill. If you aim a shot at a VP and you're aiming longitudinally, you've got a fairly good chance of actually hitting the crew from that cockpit, because it does stick out quite well. So I hope you enjoyed that game. If you did, please give this video a like. Do subscribe to our channel. Leave a little comment down below because it feeds the algorithm. And thank you for watching.